And one.
And good afternoon and welcome back into the studio here. We have Shane on Zoom now in a few minutes to tell us all about lighting. Before we do that, just a quick reminder to text COOMBE to 5300, that's 50300, or go on our website to donate. We've had some really interesting figures and we couldn't figure out where they were coming from. We had 83, 75, 27, all sorts of unusual numbers, but it turns out that people are donating the year that they were born in the GOO, which was a really nice sentiment. So you can do that too if you want. So good afternoon, Shane.
Good morning, Gwen. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
Great. Thank you very much on a Sunday morning.
Brilliant. Welcome to our online platform, and we're going to talk all things lighting. And if people have questions, they can put them in across any of the streams they're watching on, and we'll ask them as well as they're coming in. So my first question is, I have a new build and I realize it's not all about pendant lights. Where do I start?
Well, lots of places. I suppose throwing it back at you, it's all about the styling. So if a new build if it's a 3-bedroom semi or 4-bedroom semi detached and it's part of the package, I'd sincerely discuss it with the builder about what the credits are. That's key before you decide then to go and tell the electrician to put in loads and loads of additional lights into the house. But it's key to get the styling right first of all. So discussing that with an interior architect or designer is the key. Or if you're really up for it yourself and you like the challenge, look at some ideas yourself. But yes, it's gone away from having pendants everywhere throughout the house. Now it's more accent, some very nice discrete spotlights with some profile LED hidden within joinery or some coving within the home environment. But thankfully, pendants are gone. It makes it more interesting. And furniture is so much nicer now than it has been in the last 20 years. And it's becoming more affordable as well. So it's an interesting, and it's evolving really, really well at the moment.
So you said profile LED. What does that mean?
So you've got a small little aluminium extrusion that's around 8 mil in depth by about 12 mil wide. And you'll normally find this hidden within a piece of joinery. So if you buy a sideboard from one of the retail stores and you see it lights up quite smart, you can hide the lighting in this on a bookshelf or pigeonholes and create some really, really nice accent lighting. Equally, you can put these within the coving of your home. You'll see this in a lot of really high-end res homes. It's in a lot of the glossies. And then that one pendant that you want to really show off over the dining space or over your island really works well. And you can invest a lot more in that. But yes, it's primarily LED strip, which is an IP20 for indoors, IP65 for wet zones, be it shower areas or bathrooms or external, and works with a little metal extrusion. But it's so important to make sure when you're buying this that you get the metal extrusion, because if you put the tape, which has a little M3 sticky back on the back, and you apply this to wood or to a surface that's not metal, it will lift, and by lifting it'll create shadows within the space, or it'll fall down, and that can be quite annoying, especially if you've gone to a lot of expense to get it right.
So this is real attention to detail, isn't it? It's trying to make sure you're highlighting everything perfectly, and like that, any little bit where it just moves or it doesn't join properly can just scream bad design or bad thought process.
Yeah, it is, and that's where getting it right at the start with this little detail is key. Because you may not have it in your package to put in that beautiful pendant that you want, and you really want to light up the room and put in some really nice spots. Spots have evolved, recessed downlights, have evolved so much in the last number of years. Now they're much quirkier. The color on the inside is far better. They're now LED driven, so primarily most of the recessed downlights you'll buy now are LED. So from an efficient perspective of sustainability, it's a far better option. Plus now they dim a lot better. And the LED tape can also dim. So you create these lovely modes of accent throughout the house that really add. And it doesn't have to be a big house. It's just getting it right from the start is the key. So planning here is really, really important. And yet again, talking to somebody like you or your colleagues in the architectural business is very important.
There was a question actually that came in about spotlights I saw. I have here it is. I have super large eyeball spots. When I swap them out, what do I do with the hole that's left behind as it's rather big?
Well, the old spotlight is 105, so it's a brass eyeball. The bulb is an AR111 or is a G53. Ultimately, it's a very big hole, so it's 105 mil. Your standard spotlight is 63 or 82 mil, and at 82 mil, people kind of give out. But for an 82 mil, it's directional. For a 63, it's usually a static. The best thing is to get some plasterboard, fill it, and caulk it or give it a small skim. Now you may have a big ceiling, it could be vaulted, it could be expensive, but there is no quick fix for patching a ceiling, and those holes are big and they need to be filled. The other side is you could fill them and move the lights, as in fill the hole with some plasterboard and move the lights to the next section down. But then again, you could come into a situation where your trussels are there. So there's really no quick fix for patching up those large eyeball holes. The only one is you get a large light. And sometimes by getting a large light, because the light style has changed, you really need to spend a lot of money because that particular type of light and that OPE is quite big and expensive.
Okay, but it is worth doing because you're modernizing it, you're making it more efficient to run, and you're creating a whole new, it's part of decorating the scheme really, I suppose now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's an investment. You're changing around the look of your home, and if it's a situation where you've got to get the painter back in to do it, it's part of decorating. That's what we do. That's our business.
Okay, so John in Tralee wants to know what's the best way to light kitchen, dining and sitting room so that he can cover all bases?
Depending on the aspect of the house, because he may have large windows, he may have a lot of natural light, depending on the layout and how his trussels run. Is it a timber frame home? Has he already got existing points in place? Has he got a concrete floor on the first floor? There's lots of factors at play there, so it's not really an easy question to answer. But what I would say here is that let's look at the kitchen first of all. So let's look at the cabinetry in the kitchen. It's very, very important to take a look at the under counter lighting, to wash light onto the work surfaces. It's very important to light at this stage within the cabinetry, because also it's a decorative feature. If there's glazing within the units, really, really gives a great level of scent. And then it's to take a look at the lighting over the walkway around the workstations. If you have an island that faces out onto the dining room space, it's very important to light between the hob and the sink. That meaning if the sink is at the back of the kitchen and the hob is to the front, or vice versa, that particular galleyway in the center there in the middle is very important to illuminate. It's very nice to include a pendant over your island, depending if you have the space to do so, because you may have a fan there. It may be already illuminated with an induction fan or a surface mounted fan, but also then to bring the light very consistent. So uniformity is key here. And if it's an old home, as I said, it might be a bit more difficult. If it's a new home, it's a lot easier. So you'd really want to take a look at how best the layout of that particular space is. It may go with a 90 and a 45, it may be one long room. If it's one long room, light it consistently. Take out the area where the TV is, because you really don't want to over illuminate that, because your TV gives up a lot of light and you don't want glare over the TV. Make sure that you split the circuits, meaning the light over the island and the dining room table are on two different switches and they both dim. And then if it's a long, long room, break the circuits for the spotlights in either side of the room into two circuits, having dimmability capability on both sides. Then you get something very interesting. And then you can create these scenes within the room and create a nice effect. Put your candle on your table, dim everything down. And if there's a possibility also to include some 5 amps, which really, really works well with some freestanding lamps, yet again, can be really, really, really nice.
So what's a 5 amp socket?
5 amp socket. So in your home, the standard socket that you plug in your phone or your iron is a 13 amp. A 5 amp socket is different. It's got a different small little round pins instead of square pins. And this can allow your light to dim from the circuit on the wall. So if you've got 4, 2, 3 lamps placed throughout the room, your 5 amp will allow you to dim that from a position when you walk in the door on your wall or wherever your switch is. So very, very unique and very effective.
Brilliant. So you can walk into the room, turn on the light, and all the lamps come on with 5 amps.
And they'll dim as well.
Brilliant. And here's another question in, which follows on beautifully. Are all LEDs dimmable?
Not all. There's a difference between constant current and constant voltage. So you need to ask when you're buying it, and that includes online stores. This is where a lot of people get caught out. So let's say you go to one of the wholesalers or you go to one of the DIY stores and you walk in and you buy a bulb, and there's a whole crate of these special bulbs for €3. The best thing to do is ask an assistant, do these dim? And more importantly, what's the color temperature? The color temperature is the most important part, because if you look at your home, the old halogen bulbs were 2700 Kelvin. It's a really nice warm color. And in a home, it's very, very nice. If you've got white walls, it's even nicer, because when they dim down, they create that real smoky feeling. However, LED is different. LED, for example, rates between 2400 and 2950 Kelvin. So there's a small white zing when you come up. But certain manufacturers like Osram and Philips will indicate on the carton the color temperature before you buy it. And it will also indicate dimmable and non-dimmable. The dimmable one is always the more expensive. But at the same time, it could be a special on, so it's best to ask. Most LED tape dims, but it will only dim with the correct driver. The driver is the transformer. But at the same time, you need to have the correct switch on the wall. And these usually operate on leading or trailing edge. But that's something you can ask in the store or the wholesaler. So it's quite easy. Yet again, it's just clearly making sure you have your project marked out and you ask the correct questions.
Okay, so we've loads of questions for people to ask there. We have 2 minutes left. A new technology that you've seen coming online. What is it you've been to? I know we haven't been to shows since March, but you're always away, you're always at shows. What's the latest things coming out in lighting?
Well, it's really here. It's just becoming more and more efficient. As we look, I suppose now we're going to be in this pandemic is here. So a lot of the new technology that was going to be presented at Frankfurt this year, 2020, is coming to us in drip feeding. But if we look at LED lighting in homes, for example, or in commercial environments, because a lot of commercial environments will use decorative items and then they feed into homes because the designers will make it work. And, you know, a lot more lighting has become much more attractive and desirable in homes.
It has, hasn't it?
It really has, yeah. You can look at some really nice cafes and some really nice workstation areas and some very nice high-profile offices. Their breakout spaces have a lot of very nice decorative, and now you can see people affording these and bring them to their home. So
we'll get in there, we'll have a look at those for some inspiration. We can go on to Eames Lighting as well, and you've kindly donated 5 €100 vouchers to us that we're going to be giving away over the next week or two. So keep an eye on everybody. Shane, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Enjoy, guys. Best of luck.